the better equipped that doctors, nurses, administrators are with good communication skills and other business strategies as far as strategically planning, the better they can change their current environment or find an environment that suits them better from an entrepreneur standpoint instead of an intrapreneur standpoint.
Welcome to the Business of Healthcare podcast from the Center for Healthcare Leadership and Management. The center is based at the Naveen Jindal School of Management at the University of Texas at Dallas. The show, like the center, brings together business leaders and other forward thinkers to discuss how best to meet the challenges of a rapidly changing, increasingly complex healthcare industry. I'm your host, Dr. Bob Kaiser, Director of the Master's Program in Healthcare Leadership and Management for Professionals. Today, we're pleased to have Michelle Podlesni, businesswoman, author, speaker, consultant. On top of all that, you're the president of the National Nurses in Business Association, the NNBA. Welcome, Michelle.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We have many things to talk about today, and it all relates to the business of healthcare. We know that doctors get burnout. There's a recent Medscape survey that 13,000 doctors in over 30 specialties, they reported burnout rates among doctors up 51%. That's greater than it was years earlier. And this burnout's really defined as a loss of enthusiasm for work, feelings of cynicism, and low sense of personal accomplishment. So if it happens to doctors, it makes sense it would happen to nurses too. So tell us about your book, The Unconventional Nurse, Going from Burnout to Bliss.
Well, Bob, I wanted to write some help for nurses, some strategies that they could use that would help either advance or reinvent their careers. Because right now in nursing, the burnout rate is in excess of 60%. When I wrote my book several years ago, it was just a third of nurses were feeling burned out. So this is increasing across the board due to a variety of factors, and I wanted to give nurses some strategies and skills that I've used in the business world that help go from burnout to bliss. It is possible.
So you're a nurse and you've worked in that environment. Was there anything that was obvious to you that said you need to get this on the front burner and really share it with others?
Well, it was interesting. What I wanted to have on the front burner was to write a book. Never did I intend to write a book for nurses. But when I started to look at who I could serve best with my experience, because, I'm in that 50-plus category in life. And when I thought who I could serve best, I thought, well, geez, I'm just a nurse that did really well in the business world. And that was it. It was helping nurses understand business skill sets, a business mindset, and help them apply that to where they're at. And I've gotten a lot of positive response to that. And then as a result of writing the book and speaking on this topic, I was asked to take over the helm of the National Nurses in Business Association, where we have many members that are applying business in their lives.
Well, Michelle, we've got something in common here. At UT Dallas, we have two distinct programs for healthcare professionals. One is for doctors only, and the other is for doctors and administrators. But both are used for the full purpose to better equip them as business leaders and managers within the healthcare industry. So it's essential for nurses to gain business knowledge too. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Well, it's a win-win for everybody, Bob, right? The better equipped that doctors, nurses, administrators are with good communication skills and other business strategies as far as strategically planning, the better they can change their current environment or find an environment that suits them better from an entrepreneur standpoint instead of an intrapreneur standpoint.
Okay. So today you're the current president of the National Nurses in Business Association. I like that name. National Nurses in Business kind of clearly defines what's going on there. Tell us a little bit more about the organization, a little bit of the history and what their mission is.
Well, it started back in 1985. And at that time, there was a critical care nurse that talked with other nurses at the hospital that they were at out in California. And they were saying, we really could do a lot of what we do independently. And, they thought they had business ideas. And so at the beginning of 1985, it started really as a networking group and a newsletter. And very quickly it caught fire because everyone was interested in, how can I use my nursing in a business situation? How can I start my own business? So by mid-1985, the organization was founded, and it was founded on a mission of encouraging nurses and supporting them to start, manage, and own their own business, to provide a educational and networking arena, and to provide opportunities locally and nationally for nurses that were in business. So we've had, several presidents during that time, all moving this organization forward. And I really believe that the National Nurses in Business Association was a predominant influence in a lot of colleges and universities for nursing schools applying and having, I'd say in the last 15 years in nursing, they've had more MBA programs, more leadership and entrepreneurship, more innovation type programs in the nursing program.
So nurses that understand the business of healthcare, they're really better able to position themselves and really extend their careers. So people that are in your organization, are they looking to get out of nursing? Are they looking to go deeper into nursing? What do you see as far as their different roles and interests?
Well, it's interesting how you put that, to get out of nursing, because none of us believe that we're out of nursing. We're all nurses. We still have our active license. But whether a nurse practitioner or a registered nurse with 20, 30 years experience, we're just using it in a different venue. So what's happening is a lot of nurses, there's the group of nurses that are in a hospital setting, the traditional environment, and they are burned out. I'd say that the majority have at least 10 to 15 years of nursing experience in the traditional system, and they know that they can do something better. So they take that category of business, improving business, and become consultants in a variety of ways. Or perhaps they decide to help nurses in their specialty pass different certification courses. We have a lot of educators in this organization. So there's just so many different varieties, but everybody is a nurse. Everyone continues to be a nurse, just in a different fashion at different points along the healthcare continuum.
So there's certainly a theme of entrepreneurship. We hear a lot about entrepreneurs today. I always think of an entrepreneur, they're the first to go in, the last to go home, and the last to get paid. It's usually a startup organization, and it's a really challenging opportunity. But that concept of empowering nurses through entrepreneurship, the NNBA, the National Nurses in Business Association, you really have a number of methods to help empower these nurses through entrepreneurship?
Well, the very best situation we have is with our annual conference, when we have 20, 25 nurses that are successful in business presenting about their business. So role models, that's the fastest way across the board, not just with nurses, but anyone in business. If you find somebody that's doing what you want to do, and then do what they did. And so since we've been around since 1985, we have so many wonderful role models. And many of the nurses that are members of our organization are mentors, and they love sharing this information with nurses.
This episode is brought to you by the Center for Healthcare Leadership and Management, the definitive resource for healthcare management education in North Texas. The center is based in the Naveen Jindal School of Management at the University of Texas at Dallas. It plays a unique role in training the next generation of healthcare leaders to meet local, regional, and national demands. The Jindal School uses its strengths in accounting, administration, finance, marketing, and information systems to educate highly qualified personnel for healthcare administration and executive leadership positions. The center is home to 7 healthcare leadership and management programs, including undergraduate and graduate programs, as well as executive programs for physicians and working professionals. For more information, visit us online at jindal.utdallas.edu/healthcare.
So the population of nurses, I know when we look at dentists in the country today, some of the demographics and facts about the dentists, there are a lot of old dentists and a shortage maybe in the future. What's the profile of nursing? Are there a lot of people getting into nursing today still? And is there what's the average age of a nurse today? The kind of statistics behind your organization.
Oh, that's so interesting. Half of nurses today, half of over 3 million nurses are over the age of 45. So it's also interesting at the same time, thousands of students wanting to go into nursing programs are rejected. So it's very interesting to me what's going on. I'm not quite sure why, from the standpoint of the academic viewpoint, there aren't more programs for nurses. I think nursing is very strong. It's predicted to grow, I think, 23% in the next 15 years. I think it's the strongest growth sector from the Bureau of Labor statistics. And so it's a very interesting field for students, and nurses are continuing their education. So they're going beyond their BSNs, getting their masters. Many are going into being nurse practitioners today because we're seeing more autonomy and more business for nurse practitioners. So it's a very interesting environment, but like you said about dentists, just over half of the nursing population is 45 or older, and I think that they look to organizations like the NNBA to see how they can use their experience and, reduce their hours but not reduce their income.
So there is a career path for nurses today. If you would take a minute and kind of explain what the opportunities are, where can you go if you are entering in the nursing field today? Obviously, the idea of a nurse of 20 years ago or 25 years ago, there was probably a mental model that it was female, number one, and the limited scope of what they did wasn't well defined maybe as it is today. So when you profile the nurses today, it's more gender balanced, I assume?
It's becoming more gender balanced. So the percentage of men are increasing in the nursing profession. I still believe it's about 90% female and 10% male.
Well, I know that a lot of the entrepreneurial growth in America today is female. The women are some of the most robust and aggressive entrepreneurs in the marketplace. So to see that correlate over into the nursing area is not a surprise at all. So tell us a little bit more about your big annual conference. I understand that you have something that's kind of a Shark Tank type competition. Tell me more about that.
Oh, that's one of our favorite things is we've had the Shark Tank competition. This is our 5th year. And this is a great environment to have nurses come up on the stage and do their pitch to the audience and to the panel of judges. And the Shark Tank judges are nurses that have, I would, put them into the $1 million revenue earners in their business. They know business, they've been in business, and it is such a treat to hear the different presentations of what nurses are bringing on. So we do that every year, and there's prizes and awards. But the main reason that we started it is to have nurses get used to promoting themselves, because nurses aren't used to blowing their own horns. It's somewhat uncomfortable. So when they get into this situation where they're pitching their product or their program or their service, then they can get that audience involvement. They can see how their pitch is working. They get a lot of constructive feedback. And then we have nurses that do some remarkable things as a result of it. But we've had winners from everything from a concierge service for people after a loss is the name of the company. And it was predominantly to assist family members during a time of transition with patients and their family members. We've had a nurse practitioner introduce a device that was a specimen catch, and it was a unique way to preserve people's dignity. Last year, the nurse that won was had created a patient learning center, a wonderful, engaging online program for women that have had a breast cancer diagnosis and how they could learn about all their options that are available in a way that is safe and giving them all the variety that they can choose from. So each time we have people on the Shark Tank, we usually have about 5 that we have up on the stage doing the presentations. It's a win for them, it's a win for the audience, and it's a win for nursing to get used to promoting yourself and what you're providing the public.
Well, it only makes sense when you stop and look at the complexity of the healthcare industry today and all the changes that are taking place, all the new opportunities that are starting to show up, whether it be in administration or the clinical side. There's just an enormous amount of opportunity. And I think to make people aware that this opportunity exists and that their qualifications and experience can be applied in these new areas, I think that's the big value point that you're making here with the NNBA. So that's really exciting to see how you can stir up the excitement and you can get people, looking at these possibilities and really reaching out and going way beyond what they would traditionally think their role might be. So that's awesome.
It's really getting nurses to do a paradigm shift from how they looked at their knowledge and experience and how they could apply it in a variety of areas. And we're not talking about, explaining to nurses, yes, go into entrepreneurship. There are many wonderful ways to take steps into entrepreneurship. You can do it part-time. You can do it full-time. Nurses can be very entrepreneurial in the setting they're in to solve a lot of the challenges that we're dealing with today, as you know, in the hospital setting. So it's just an exciting time in nursing, and it's a very exciting time for us. We love providing these classes and opportunities and presentations about entrepreneurship.
So as we wrap up here, Michelle, the big question. So what advice would you give to someone entering the nursing world today?
Well, I give the same advice all the time, and that is that the person that's your greatest resource is the person who's next to you. So the nurse that's next to you, when you're starting, when you're new, when you're 5 years down the road, when you're 10 years down the road, nurses are some of your greatest resources. So look to them for support. Look around you to the nurses that are doing things and functioning in a environment that excites you, that you could see yourself in. Get to know them. So for me, I'm always talking about relationship building, and specifically relationship building with other nurses and helping each other achieve our potential that we want to experience in our career.
Outstanding. Well, this has been the Business of Healthcare, and we've been delighted today to have Michelle Podlesni with us. Michelle, it's been a pleasure having you share your view and continue on with all that you're doing. We'll stay in touch and have you back again.
Well, I would love that. We can go into some specifics, and definitely I would welcome your audience to come and join us at the conference in Las Vegas in September, and they can find out that information at nnbanow.com.
Outstanding. Thank you again, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Business of Healthcare podcast. Join us online at businessofhealthcarepodcast.com to find episode links, notes, and more. Be sure to subscribe to the Business of Healthcare podcast on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app. To learn more about the Center for Healthcare Leadership and Management, go to jundal.utdallas.edu and then search under the Center and Institutes tab on the navigation menu. Also, we want to hear from you. If you'd like to provide feedback, make suggestions for future guests or show topics, or just want to get in touch with us, email us at healthcarebizpodcast@utdallas.edu. Biz is spelled B-I-Z. And let us know how we're doing. I'm your host, Dr. Bob Kaiser, with the Center for Healthcare Leadership and Management, where we're leading change by changing how we lead.